The scent of stale incense and simmering lentils hung heavy in the air of Aisha Rahman's apartment, a familiar comfort in the dimly lit space. At 17, Aisha possessed a quiet brilliance, a mind that hummed with a restless curiosity far beyond her years. But her home, nestled deep within a low-income, underserved urban neighborhood, offered little in the way of conventional opportunity. Instead of gleaming labs and rows of textbooks, her study routine unfolded late into the night. By the weak glow of a single flickering lamp, she'd pore over dusty, leather-bound medical journals, their pages brittle with age. These weren't ordinary texts. They were her late grandfather's, filled with his meticulous handwritten notes on obscure biochemical pathways and forgotten herbal remedies. She surrounded herself with makeshift experiments, salvaged botanical samples drying on newspaper, and common household chemicals carefully repurposed. Her worn, oversized sweaters, patched at the elbows, seemed to swallow her small frame, emphasizing her intense focus as she meticulously transferred complex diagrams and cryptic formulas into her own worn notebook. Every line, every hurried scribble, was a testament to her unwavering dedication to learning, a silent battle against the systemic challenges that choked her dreams. The glaring lack of formal education, the absence of proper lab facilities, and the pervasive racial bias that often steered young black women away from prestigious academic programs. Yet, through it all, Aisha carried herself with a quiet dignity, her compassion a deep, constant current, especially for her younger brother, Kareem, whose chronic illness was a constant, aching worry. Their meager meals were always shared, Aisha meticulously ensuring Kareem ate before her, his frail health a silent vow that propelled her forward. One sweltering afternoon, the kind where the humidity seemed to press down on the entire city, Aisha was walking home through the bustling, chaotic market. The air vibrated with the shouts of vendors, the murmur of haggling, and the rhythmic beat of street performers. Suddenly, a frantic commotion erupted near a fruit stall. A young child, small and pale, was struggling, gasping for air, his lips already tinged blue. Panic rippled through the crowd. People shouted, some fumbled for their phones, while others simply stared, paralyzed by fear. Aisha didn't hesitate. Her mind, honed by countless hours of studying her grandfather's manuals and applying his practical wisdom, clicked into action. She pushed through the throng, her eyes quickly assessing the scene. The child had obviously touched something. A basket of exotic berries lay overturned nearby. She sniffed the air, then quickly examined the child's skin for contact rashes. The telltale hives and the raspy, whistling sound of his breath screamed severe allergic reaction. While others continued to panic, Aisha, with surprising composure for her age, knelt beside the child. She knew time was critical. "He's going into anaphylactic shock," she announced, her voice calm but firm, cutting through the rising hysteria. "He needs a natural antihistamine, fast." She scanned the stalls, her eyes darting between spices and herbs. She didn't have much money, but she reached into her pocket and pulled out her last few crumpled dollars. She sprinted to a wizened herbalist's stall she frequented, her heart pounding. "Ginger paste, concentrated, and a few sprigs of feverfew," she instructed, her voice urgent. The vendor, startled, quickly complied. Returning to the child, Aisha carefully mixed a small amount of the ginger paste with a few drops of water, then gently, painstakingly, administered it to the child, rubbing a tiny bit onto his gums and a diluted portion onto his pulse points. She stayed with him, her hand on his chest, providing calm, whispered reassurances until the distant wail of sirens grew closer. When the paramedics finally arrived, they moved with efficient precision. After a quick assessment, the lead paramedic looked up, his eyes wide with surprise. "Remarkable," he muttered, checking the child's now improving vitals. The reaction stabilizing. Whoever gave him that ginger mixture acted quickly and precisely. It likely bought us crucial minutes and prevented a tragedy. The child's mother, tears streaming down her face, clutched Aisha's hand. "She's my angel," she choked out, pointing a trembling finger at Aisha. This selfless act, this quiet demonstration of her innate medical knowledge, her profound compassion, and her remarkable calmness under pressure, solidified Aisha as a protagonist to root for, highlighting her immense potential and good heart. This was her save the cat moment. Tucked securely into the pocket of Aisha's worn oversized sweater, always with her, was a small, leather-bound journal. Its cover was smooth with age, its pages filled with intricate, almost scientific drawings of unique plants, their molecular structures meticulously rendered, alongside cryptic notes in her grandfather's flowing script. This wasn't just any journal. It was a relic, a silent testament to a forgotten legacy. Her own grandfather, Dr. Elias Rahman. He had been a brilliant biochemist and ethnobotanist in the mid-20th century, a visionary whose groundbreaking research into natural compounds for healing was unjustly suppressed, and his profound contributions erased from mainstream medical history due to pervasive systemic racism. The journal, a tangible link to this erased past, represented a hidden legacy of medical and scientific brilliance in Aisha's lineage, a quiet powerhouse of knowledge waiting to be unleashed. The local community clinic, a small, underfunded facility in their neighborhood, was where Aisha sometimes volunteered, helping with basic administrative tasks and observing the doctors. The lead physician, Dr. Evelyn Reed, was a woman of formidable intellect and undeniable skill, highly respected in her conventional medical circles. But her brilliance was matched by a deep-seated arrogance and an almost pathological prejudice against anything that challenged her authority or deviated from established protocols. She tolerated Aisha's presence, but dismissed her quiet observations and intuitive insights with a curt wave of her hand. Rahman, Reed would often state, her voice clipped, medicine is a science of protocols and proven methodologies, not intuition or folklore. Your self-taught curiosities are quaint but dangerous. Stick to the charts. She embodied the very essence of unconscious bias, viewing Aisha's raw talent as undisciplined, her ambition as misguided, and her unconventional knowledge as irrelevant. She subtly pushed Aisha to conform, even sidelining her from opportunities to observe complex cases, convinced that Aisha's unconventional thinking would only be a detriment. Dr. Reed, the clear, misguided antagonist, was defined by her stubborn adherence to outdated beliefs and an ingrained bias that blinded her to true, unconventional genius. The burning frustration within Aisha grew with each passing day. She meticulously filled out applications, detailing her exceptional understanding of complex medical concepts, her unique insights into natural compounds, her voracious self-study. She applied for prestigious medical scholarships to top universities, the kind that could offer her a path to becoming a pioneering doctor, and, more importantly, a means to support her family and afford Kareem's increasingly expensive ongoing medical care. Each time she poured her heart into the essays, sketching out her dreams with desperate hope. Each time the response was a polite, yet chillingly familiar rejection letter. Some cited lack of demonstrated foundational training or traditional academic credentials, thinly veiled jabs at her socioeconomic status and the systemic barriers she faced. Others vaguely mentioned a broader institutional background requirement, a code she'd come to recognize as racial and socioeconomic bias. Each rejection was a fresh wound, a painful reminder of the invisible walls that seemed insurmountable, consistently pushing her deeper into despair. Her dreams of a collegiate medical career, her golden ticket out of poverty, seemed to be fading, dimming with each passing day, leaving her trapped in a cycle of aspiration and systemic rejection. The constant pressure of her family's financial struggles, too, was beginning to press down on her, a heavy shroud threatening to extinguish her flickering hope for a better future. The final rejection letter, bearing the official seal of the prestigious Beaumont University School of Medicine, landed in Aisha's inbox like a lead weight. It wasn't merely a digital message, it was a cold, clinical pronouncement of failure. While your unconventional knowledge and evident passion are intriguing, Ms. Rahman, the email read, its words sterile and dismissive, our program rigorously adheres to candidates demonstrating foundational training within established academic frameworks and possessing traditional institutional credentials. The phrase, traditional institutional credentials, hung in the air, a thinly veiled, polite dismissal, a refusal based not on her profound aptitude, but on her socioeconomic status and the systemic barriers that denied her access to elite preparatory programs. This rejection wasn't just the loss of a scholarship. It was the shattering of her last shred of hope for a conventional recognized path into higher education, and ultimately, into the medical profession. It plunged her into a despair that felt colder and more suffocating than any long, lonely night spent studying. Just as the professional blow landed, a deeply personal crisis erupted, threatening to unravel the fragile fabric of her family's existence. Her younger brother, Kareem, a vibrant, spirited boy whose laughter was the sunshine in their small home, experienced a severe flare-up of his chronic autoimmune disease. His condition, a rare form of lupus that attacked his vital organs, had worsened dramatically. The local clinics, underfunded and overwhelmed, could offer little beyond basic symptom management and pain relief. Kareem needed immediate, expensive, specialized experimental treatment at the world-renowned Children's Research Hospital in Boston, a facility at the absolute forefront of advanced immunological therapies. The cost was astronomical, a figure that mocked Aisha's meager earnings from her grueling part-time jobs. The mounting medical bills became an unbearable burden, a crushing weight that pinned her beneath a mountain of debt her family couldn't possibly climb. Her quiet resilience, usually her greatest asset, was stretched to its breaking point. She felt a profound, aching helplessness, caught between her beloved brother's fading health and her own stifled potential. This dual blow, the public rejection of her talent and the private anguish of her family's looming ruin, was deeply personal, threatening to obliterate her future and shatter her last remaining link to a meaningful, hopeful past. A wave of profound despair and resignation washed over Aisha, heavier than any emotional burden she'd ever carried. The thought of abandoning medicine entirely, of retreating into a less demanding, more anonymous profession, became a persistent, insidious whisper in her mind. Why fight a system so determined to keep her down? Why subject herself to further pain and humiliation? More polite rejections, more doors slammed shut. The idea of finding work, any work, that didn't demand her soul, that didn't constantly remind her of what she wasn't in the industry's narrow, prejudiced view, seemed a tempting escape. She agonized over Kareem's deteriorating condition, the rhythmic wheeze of his breathing a cruel counterpoint to her growing sense of inadequacy. The familiar fear of public humiliation, of being exposed as an outsider who dared to dream too big, intensified. Her instinct screamed at her to remain unseen, to avoid any further attempts that might lead to more crushing rejections. Yet, amidst the suffocating despair, a stubborn, incandescent flicker of defiance ignited within her. It began as a faint glow, almost imperceptible against the darkness, but it pulsed with an unwavering primal strength. She closed her eyes, clutching the smooth, worn, leather-bound journal that was her grandfather's. A memory, vivid and potent, bloomed in her mind. Her grandfather, Pops Rahman, his calloused hands demonstrating a complex titration, his voice raspy with wisdom. Child, the body ain't just flesh, it's a living blueprint. And some healers, little bird, just gotta draw their own maps, find their own remedies, when no one else will see what's truly broken. She recalled a specific passage from his worn journal, a dog-eared page filled with arcane diagrams of unconventional treatments for complex autoimmune conditions, methods dismissed by conventional medicine as folklore. When all known routes are blocked, Elias had scribbled, his elegant script defying the age spots, forge your own, for healing often waits where no one else dares to look. This profound wisdom resonated deep within Aisha, stirring a quiet, fierce defiance against the systemic rejections that sought to define her by her race and socioeconomic status, rather than by her profound capabilities. She would not be broken. Her spirit, though wounded, refused to be extinguished. Driven by this renewed, desperate resolve, Aisha scoured obscure online medical forums and whispered rumors in the underbelly of her community's informal networks. Most advertised medical challenges or research competitions offered paltry prize money, barely enough to cover Kareem's daily medication, let alone his experimental treatment. Then, buried deep within a shadowy online forum dedicated to extreme urban medical challenges, she stumbled upon a peculiar notice. It was cryptic, terse, and devoid of official details, posted by an anonymous proxy. It described an incredibly high-stakes, unscheduled, and largely secret underground medical challenge, a grueling, unsanctioned competition testing diagnostic and treatment skills under extreme pressure. The prize for the winner was astronomical, an astonishing cash sum that would not only cover Kareem's immediate experimental treatment, but also secure his long-term care and provide for her family. But the challenge was considered too dangerous, too unconventional, rejected by all mainstream doctors and medical organizations. It was a high-risk, high-reward proposition, a desperate gamble against insurmountable odds. Against the advice of her worried family, who pleaded with her not to risk her future for such a dangerous undertaking, and the explicit disapproval of Dr. Evelyn Reed, who scoffed at her audacity, labeling it reckless folly and a pipe dream, Aisha decided to secretly enter the challenge. She found the anonymous contact, her voice unwavering as she stated her qualifications, carefully omitting her age and official lack of certification, and her desperate intent. She had meticulously studied advanced biochemical interactions and emergency medical procedures, far beyond what any formal curriculum offered, and she knew she could handle a crisis, both her own and others. The voice on the other end, cold and impersonal, simply gave her coordinates and a time for a preliminary qualifying assessment. This was her last resort, a leap of faith into the unknown, where her skills would either save her brother or doom her entirely. This audacious decision, fueled by a primal need to save Kareem and a deep-seated, almost defiant belief in her own abilities, was her point of no return. It made it utterly impossible for her to retreat to her previous life of quiet despair and stifled potential. The die had been cast. Her fate, and Kareem's, now lay in the heart of an unsanctioned competition and the extraordinary mind of a struggling black teenager. Unbeknownst to Aisha, her audacious decision to enter the impossible underground medical challenge became the subject of casual amusement and thinly veiled contempt among the more senior physicians at the local community clinic. Dr. Evelyn Reed, the woman who had subtly steered Aisha away from her dreams, leaned back in her polished chair, a smug grin playing on her lips. She had just heard vague rumors of Aisha's involvement from one of the other, less scrupulous nurses who dabbled in the city's informal medical circuits. "That Rahman girl," Reed scoffed, shaking her head slowly, as if pitying a misguided child. "Entering some back alley, unsanctioned medical challenge for money? Ha! She thinks her intuitive understanding will work when there are no regulations, no official oversight. It's a fool's errand, I tell you." She dismissed it with a wave of her manicured hand, a confirmation of her inherent bias. She viewed Aisha's attempt as a futile, desperate act by someone beneath her notice, reaffirming her belief in fixed social strata. She'll just make a fool of herself, probably get herself into serious legal trouble trying to practice outside the system. She chuckled, a casual, almost indifferent cruelty in her voice. "Just proves my point, doesn't it? Stick to the conventional paths, Rahman. High-pressure, high-stakes medical competitions aren't for her type." She saw Aisha's ambition as reckless and misguided, predicting her spectacular failure, which would, in her eyes, prove her long-held prejudices about her students' unsuitability for high-pressure medical competitions. She casually spread rumors about Aisha's unconventional nature and lack of formal training to anyone who would listen, aiming to undermine her before she even began, confident that her spectacular downfall would cement her own entrenched beliefs about who belonged in the elite world of medicine and who didn't. The thought of Aisha's success was simply an amusing fantasy, a fleeting diversion in her perfectly ordered, prejudiced universe. The air within the vast, cavernous private airport hangar hummed with the silent power of dormant engines and the sterile scent of antiseptic. Marcus M.J. Jones, having successfully navigated the qualifying run and secretly slipped into the main event, found himself deep within the labyrinthine heart of the underground marathon. The course was a brutal test, a punishing series of abandoned warehouses, crumbling industrial zones, and forgotten alleys. Unlike sanctioned races, there were no cheering crowds, no water stations, only the gasping breaths of desperate runners, and the silent, judging eyes of a few shadowy onlookers. MJ, with his worn shoes and even more worn determination, was pushing himself to the absolute limit, the image of Lily's fading smile his unwavering beacon. Then, in a particularly desolate stretch of crumbling concrete, near the skeletal remains of an old factory, a chilling sound cut through the silence. A sharp, guttural cry followed by a sickening thud. Ahead, a female runner had collapsed violently, her body seizing with alarming convulsions. It was Chloe Vance, though MJ had no idea of her identity. He only knew she was a fierce competitor, distinguishable by her high-tech running gear and the small, highly focused team that always seemed to hover nearby. Her elite running team, two powerfully built men and a woman who looked like a former Olympian, all in matching pristine athletic wear, were already attempting to help, but their movements were frantic, uncoordinated. They clearly mistook her symptoms for extreme dehydration, trying to force water into her mouth, a dangerous move given her state. "She's just severely dehydrated," shouted one of the men, his voice strained with panic. "Get her more water." "No!" MJ's voice cut through the air, sharp and authoritative, a surprising contrast to his usual quiet demeanor. He hadn't meant to intervene to expose himself, but the sight of her deteriorating condition and their fundamentally incorrect approach forced his hand. He sprinted forward, ignoring the surprised, annoyed glances from Chloe's team. "Don't give her more water. Her muscles are seizing, and her breathing is shallow. It's not just dehydration. It's acute exertional rhabdomyolysis from a severe electrolyte imbalance." He knelt beside Chloe, his hands moving with practiced efficiency. "You're making it worse by forcing water. Her body is breaking down muscle tissue, releasing toxins that could shut down her kidneys." He spoke with the quiet authority of someone who understood the intricate dance of physiology better than they did. She needs sodium, potassium, and magnesium intravenously if possible, but immediate oral repletion with precise concentrations. And her muscles need to be gently massaged to prevent further breakdown. A collective silence descended upon the group. The other team members exchanged bewildered glances. Such a diagnosis was highly unconventional, requiring an almost impossible level of intuitive understanding of biochemical interactions in extreme athletic exertion. The powerful men looked ready to physically remove him. Brenda Chen, Chloe Vance's personal trainer, a woman with the focused intensity of a former Olympic athlete herself, stepped forward. Her eyes, sharp and intelligent, narrowed as she studied MJ. Unlike her colleagues, she didn't scoff. She saw the genuine insight in MJ's words, the unwavering conviction in his eyes despite his youth and his humble appearance. She had seen enough conventional wisdom fail. "How do you know this, kid?" she asked, her voice wary but not dismissive. MJ instinctively reached for the frayed ribbon around his neck, the bronze athletic medal almost worn smooth. "My grandfather. He studied these things. He trained athletes in extreme conditions." He didn't elaborate, didn't mention the injustice, just spoke with the quiet confidence of someone who possessed knowledge others didn't. Brenda Chen, despite her team's obvious skepticism and their initial dismissiveness of a young black teenager daring to offer advice on a high-profile athlete, grudgingly allowed MJ to demonstrate his ideas. Their faces were a mixture of doubt, faint curiosity, and palpable resentment. This was the moment of unveiling, his talent forced into the open by the sheer necessity of the situation. Present throughout this unfolding drama, his face a mask of barely concealed arrogance, was Liam Thorne, the arrogant and highly competitive lead trainer and team captain of Chloe's elite running team. Liam, a former collegiate star, was a top-tier athlete and trainer, but his professionalism was overshadowed by his deep prejudice against any unconventional methods or challenges to his authority. He saw MJ's intervention not as an opportunity for help, but as a direct threat, an exquisite opportunity to discredit him and solidify his own indispensable standing with the Vance family. "Brenda, this is insane." Liam's voice cut through the air, sharp and accusatory. "You're letting some unaccredited street kid touch Chloe? This is gross negligence. He's clearly unqualified. This is just a desperate stunt, a cheap attempt to get noticed. You'll endanger Chloe's career, trusting his reckless ideas." He publicly mocked MJ, his voice carrying, ensuring that any scattered onlookers, or even the hidden cameras of the underground race would hear. He subtly tried to obstruct him, nudging a critical first aid kit out of reach, or whispering to Brenda about MJ's reckless ideas and unconventional background. Liam, the clear Type A antagonist, was motivated by personal gain and intellectual arrogance, seeing MJ as nothing more than a pawn in his ruthless game for power and prestige. Despite Liam Thorne's active undermining and the skeptical glances of Chloe's other team members, MJ moved with calm precision. He instructed Brenda to find specific, easily accessible items from the basic first aid supplies. "We need a packet of electrolyte gel, a few drops of pickle juice, and a handful of pretzels," he directed, his voice unwavering. It seemed absurd, but he was rapidly constructing an improvised, balanced electrolyte solution. He then demonstrated a specific, deep-tissue massage technique on Chloe's seizing calf muscles, a technique rooted in his grandfather's obscure methods for rapid muscle recovery. Against all odds, and despite Liam Thorne's incessant undermining, MJ's unconventional diagnostic and intervention methods yielded immediate, stunning results. Chloe Vance's severe cramping began to subside. Her breathing, which had been dangerously shallow, normalized. Her body, responding to the precise improvised electrolyte solution and the expertly applied massage, slowly began to relax. This initial success was a powerful breakthrough, validating his expertise beyond a shadow of a doubt. It began to earn him the wary, then-growing respect of Chloe's team, particularly Brenda Chen, whose initial skepticism had completely melted away, replaced by an unmistakable sense of wonder and profound gratitude. She now saw not just a struggling black teenager, but a young man of immense talent, unwavering strength, and almost supernatural intuition. As MJ worked with such intense focus, the worn bronze athletic medal he always wore, usually hidden beneath his shirt, had slipped completely free, catching the ambient light filtering into the desolate industrial zone. It was a modest, unassuming piece, its intricate design of an old-fashioned runner on a track almost worn smooth by time. Brenda Chen, though focused on Chloe's stabilizing condition, caught a clear glimpse of it. Something about its unique old-world craftsmanship and the faint, almost archaic inscription on the back stirred a faint, half-forgotten memory, a feeling of profound familiarity related to her own early days in track. She dismissed it for the moment, too caught up in the relief of Chloe's improvement. She was focused on the immediate miracle, not yet realizing the profound historical significance of the unassuming medal or the legendary lineage it represented. The truth, like a hidden route on a secret map, was slowly, quietly beginning to reveal itself, waiting for the perfect moment to emerge. The news of Aisha Rahman's uncanny ability to stabilize Eleanor Vance, when the billionaire's own elite medical team was baffled, reverberated through the exclusive, tightly knit world of ultra-high net worth individuals and their discreet, often secretive, networks. Mr. Julian Vance, a man whose word carried immense weight in the tech and venture capital industries, had witnessed Aisha's quiet brilliance firsthand. His initial relief at his wife's recovery had quickly morphed into a profound, almost reverent awe for the young woman who had saved his family. Liam Thorne's name, the head trainer in the prior description, had been replaced with Dr. Evelyn Reed, who now seethed. Her meticulously crafted world of medical infallibility and professional prestige began to fracture under the weight of whispers and the undeniable, stunning success of the unaccredited street kid. Dr. Evelyn Reed, her face a mask of barely concealed rage and humiliation, saw the burgeoning respect for Aisha as an existential threat to her own career and reputation within the elite medical community. She was already smarting from the quiet, yet insistent inquiries from Julian Vance's legal team regarding her team's initial misdiagnosis. With a predatory gleam in her eye, she secretly devised a public spectacle, a grand display of medical prowess designed solely to expose Aisha as a fraud and definitively cement her own superior position. She used her considerable influence within the exclusive underground medical challenges circuit to arrange a high-stakes live medical emergency simulation. This wasn't just a test, it was an ambush, designed to replicate a complex, rapidly deteriorating physiological crisis, an acute respiratory distress syndrome combined with severe muscle fatigue and organ stress, mimicking an advanced form of heat exhaustion and organ failure. She rigged the challenge, designing the scenario with layers of unnecessary bureaucratic hurdles and highly unusual diagnostic protocols that would favor conventional, less intuitive approaches, relying heavily on advanced equipment she knew Aisha wouldn't have access to, or training she believed Aisha lacked. The event was set to be discreetly recorded and, if successful in discrediting Aisha, anonymously leaked to medical boards and rival corporations to tarnish Aisha's burgeoning reputation and ensure her permanent blacklisting from any legitimate medical career. The day of the challenge dawned under the harsh glare of portable, high-intensity stadium lights, illuminating the sterile, opulent interior of Julian Vance's private jet. The colossal aircraft, usually reserved for transcontinental flights of the ultra-rich, had been converted into a makeshift high-stakes arena, its cabin humming with the silent power of dormant engines. This was the symbolic arena, a place of immense wealth and technological advancement designed to highlight Aisha's outsider status. The air hung thick with anticipation, the hushed murmurs of the invited observers punctuated by the occasional discreet flash of a hidden camera. Aisha, still in her simple, practical clothing, stepped onto the plush-carpeted floor, her worn sneakers a stark contrast to the polished surfaces. The sheer luxury of the space was overwhelming. Every polished surface seemed to reflect her image back at her, amplifying the feeling of intense scrutiny. The public nature of the event, with every breath and movement amplified, transformed the jet cabin from a place of quiet travel into a symbolic battleground where every decision was magnified, and failure could be catastrophic, both for the simulated patient and for Lily's fading hope. Aisha felt profoundly alone in this chaotic, high-stakes environment, surrounded by faces that ranged from skeptical to openly hostile. Mr. Julian Vance, though outwardly supportive, was forced to maintain an objective distance for the public spectacle. He sat conspicuously in the front row of the observer section, with a panel of medical dignitaries, his expression carefully neutral, though his gaze was fixed intently on Aisha. He offered a reassuring but public nod, a silent acknowledgement of his faith. Eleanor Vance, now recovering from her earlier ordeal, was the patient for the simulation, lying on a state-of-the-art medical cot. Her condition had been carefully programmed by Dr. Reed to rapidly deteriorate, mimicking a real patient in severe distress, its vitals displayed on a large screen for all to see. Dr. Evelyn Reed and her chosen team were present, ostentatiously displaying their official credentials and pristine equipment. They were subtly hostile, whispering among themselves, offering misleading comments to the judging panel, and loudly questioning Aisha's methods to anyone within earshot. Dr. Reed herself stalked the perimeter of the challenge area, a predatory gleam in her eye, her condescending remarks echoing through the confined cabin. She even had a stooge, a disgruntled nurse who, through a hidden earpiece, subtly, accidentally, bumped into a cart holding Aisha's small, meticulously organized personal medical kit, scattering her grandfather's rare vials and homemade diagnostic tools across the floor. It was a petty, cruel act, designed to disrupt her focus and force her to waste precious seconds. Aisha was utterly alone, armed only with her innate talent, the faded wisdom of her grandfather's teachings, and the unwavering belief of Julian Vance, whose distant support felt like a fragile lifeline. As if the rigged rules, the sabotaged equipment, and Dr. Reed's constant harassment weren't enough, a new daunting constraint was announced. A stern-faced announcer, clearly under Dr. Reed's thumb, stepped forward. "And to truly test the limits of expertise," he announced, his voice amplified through the jet's sophisticated sound system, "we have an additional challenge. The jet's primary medical diagnostic console, a proprietary Vance Aerospace bioanalyzer, crucial for diagnosing rapid-onset neurological and cardiovascular failure, has experienced an unforeseen malfunction." He gestured to a large, inert screen, its lights dark. "Competitors will have to complete their diagnosis and implement critical intervention using only standard, common-market first aid tools, and they will have only 45 minutes to do so, before the simulated patient's vitals reach a critical, irreversible point." A ripple of gasps went through the observer section. This was unprecedented. The bioanalyzer was indispensable for diagnosing the specific type of rapidly progressing, intermittent neurological and cardiovascular failure simulated in the patient. Without it, the task was deemed impossible by conventional means. This pushed Aisha to the brink, forcing her to improvise an incredibly complex, temporary physiological solution using only limited, non-standard resources available in a jet's first aid kit. A few bottles of saline, some basic medical tape, and a handful of emergency rations. The clock began its relentless digital count on a small screen above the simulated patient's head, each tick a hammer blow against her dwindling time. She began her diagnosis, not with scanners or complicated software, but with her hands, her ears, and her almost supernatural intuition. She placed her palm flat against the dummy's simulated forehead, feeling for subtle changes in skin temperature that hinted at neurological distress. She gently pressed on various pressure points, listening to the subtle rhythms of the simulated patient's breathing, discerning the minute differences in pitch that spoke volumes to her attuned senses. She even used a simple multimeter, salvaged from an old toy, not just to test electrical continuity, but to subtly gauge neurological resistance fluctuations too small for calibrated machines to detect. She even held a specialized stethoscope, an old, well-worn tool from her grandfather's kit, to the patient's chest, listening to the intricate dance of her internal organs, detecting the barely perceptible murmurs and clicks that revealed cardiovascular stress. She was tracing an invisible fault, a ghost in the machine that only she could hear, a phantom that eluded the most sophisticated of modern equipment. Dr. Reed, watching her, initially scoffed. "She's trying to feel the problem, Mr. Vance. What a charade." But as minutes ticked by and Aisha methodically narrowed down the possibilities, Reed's confidence began to waver. She tried to disrupt Aisha, offering loud, incorrect advice to the judging panel. "She's wasting time. That's not protocol. This is why you need proper training, not guesswork." She even instructed a flight attendant, via a hidden earpiece, to subtly increase the cabin pressure and introduce a faint, intermittent turbulence, hoping to artificially alter the simulated patient's vitals and throw off Aisha's manual readings and delicate balance. But Aisha remained focused, her concentration absolute. She traced the complex interplay of symptoms, her fingers moving with a dancer's grace, her intuition guiding her to the most unlikely of places. She wasn't just guessing. She was performing a silent, intricate dance of deduction, her mind correlating every subtle physiological change, every minute sound, every minuscule reading. With only 15 minutes left on the clock, her eyes fixed on a specific pattern in the simulated patient's shallow, rapid breathing. A tiny, almost imperceptible tremor in the diaphragm became visible to her trained eye. It was a microspasm in the phrenic nerve, a flaw so minute it would only cause an intermittent, destabilizing neurological short under precise conditions of stress and atmospheric pressure, exactly the kind of undetectable malfunction that baffled conventional diagnostics. It was the heart of the ghost. The ultimate test was far from over, but the elusive problem, the one designed to break her, had just revealed its secret to her unwavering gaze. The air grew thick with a desperate tension, the clock ticking towards a climactic revelation, the fate of the challenge and her brother's future, hanging by a single slender thread. The air within the private jet's cabin was a living entity, thick with the electric tension of 1,000 unspoken fears. 3 minutes. Only 3 agonizing minutes remained on the digital clock, each tick a hammer blow against Aisha Rahman's dwindling time. She had pinpointed the insidious microspasm in the simulated patient's phrenic nerve, the ghost in the machine designed to be undetectable by conventional means. But identifying the problem was only the first impossible step. Fixing it, without the proprietary Vance Aerospace bioanalyzer Dr. Evelyn Reed had deliberately malfunctioned, was the true impossibility, the ultimate gauntlet. Every movement Aisha made was a testament to her discipline and the profound depth of her focus. She knew conventional repair was impossible within the constraints. The nerve was too delicate, too deeply embedded to simply treat with standard medical procedures in the remaining seconds. She ran a gloved finger over the simulated patient's chest, her mind racing, sifting through every obscure technique, every forgotten lesson from her grandfather's cryptic journal. She could feel the weight of anticipation, the silent judgment of the crowd, the triumphant sneer she knew was forming on Dr. Reed's face. The pressure was suffocating, threatening to crush her. With just 60 seconds left on the clock, A horrifying, piercing alarm blared through the jet's sophisticated sound system. The primary monitor, displaying the simulated patient's vitals, suddenly went dark. A critical, system-wide failure in the simulated patient's cardiovascular system. A separate, unrelated malfunction designed by Dr. Reed to add another layer of insurmountable pressure. A final, catastrophic obstacle. The simulated patient's heart rate monitor flatlined, a long, agonizing beep echoing through the confined space. A collective gasp, sharp and sudden, rippled through the observers. Dr. Evelyn Reed, who had been watching from the sidelines, her face a mask of barely contained triumph, let out a loud, mocking laugh that cut through the air. "There she goes! Catastrophic failure! Told you she was a hack! Game over, Rahman!" she roared, her voice laced with venom and absolute certainty, already savoring her victory. For a terrifying, agonizing beat, it seemed all was truly lost. Aisha froze, the blaring alarm a deafening shriek in her ears, the flatlined monitor a physical blow. Despair, cold and sharp, pierced through her. The cardiovascular failure was too complex, too extensive to fix in mere seconds. Her meticulously precise identification of the phrenic nerve microspasm felt utterly meaningless in the face of this new, engineered catastrophe. It was the familiar sting of helplessness, amplified 1,000-fold. Every past rejection, every prejudice she had faced, rushing back to overwhelm her. The sheer impossibility of the situation pressed down on her, threatening to crush her spirit. Julian Vance, too, slumped in his seat, a visible sag of crushing disappointment. His belief, his hope, seemed to drain away. But then, a surge of fierce, defiant energy ignited within Aisha. It was a primal refusal to be defeated, a resonant echo of her grandfather's unwavering spirit. His voice in her mind, clear as a bell. "When they build a wall, Aisha, find the hidden passage. There's always a bypass." A specific, obscure technique from Elias's Hidden Notes, a bioelectrical bypass procedure for cardiovascular systems using seemingly mundane components, flashed through her mind. It was an unorthodox, incredibly risky last-ditch scenario, but it was the only one. With a furious flurry of action, her movements a blur of practiced grace and intuitive genius, Aisha retrieved a small, oddly shaped crystal vial from a hidden compartment in her worn leather-bound journal. It was a piece her grandfather had designed for experimental purposes years ago, a universal bioelectrical modulator. With almost superhuman speed, she connected it to a series of auxiliary ports on the patient's monitoring system, diverting the simulated neural impulses around the failed cardiovascular section. Her hands moved with a surgeon's precision, twisting, tightening, sealing. Her brow was furrowed in intense concentration, beads of sweat trickling down her temples, her breath coming in ragged gasps. Dr. Reed's mocking laughter faded into the background, drowned out by the thunderous beat of her own heart. The clock ticked. 30 seconds. 20. 10. Finally, just as the timer hit 0, Aisha snapped the last connection into place. The blaring alarm, miraculously, fell silent. The flatlined heart monitor, which moments before had shown only a grim, unwavering line, now flickered once, then burst to life with a strong, steady, rhythmic beep, beep, beep. The diagnostic lights on the panel, which had been a chaotic, flashing red, turned to a solid, reassuring green, indicating full system integrity. The elusive malfunctions and the deliberate sabotage had both been banished by her audacious ingenuity. The jet cabin erupted. Dr. Evelyn Reed's triumphant sneer, frozen on her face, contorted into a mask of pure, unadulterated shock. Her jaw dropped, her eyes wide and vacant, completely disconnected from the reality unfolding before her. She stumbled backward, her carefully constructed world collapsing. She looked around for someone to share her disbelief, but every single face in the jet cabin was turned towards Aisha, their expressions shifting from disbelief to absolute astonishment, then to unadulterated, roaring admiration. She sank into her seat, a small, pathetic figure, utterly defeated, her face paling to an ashen gray. Her defeat was complete, her malice utterly vanquished by the undeniable force of Aisha's genius. Mr. Julian Vance, who had been rigid with tension, slowly rose to his feet, his eyes wide with a profound, almost dizzying sense of awe. His meticulously maintained composure finally cracked, replaced by an expression of pure, unbridled wonder. He began to clap, slowly at first, then with increasing fervor, leading the thunderous standing ovation. The applause swelled, a roaring tsunami of sound that washed over Aisha, acknowledging not just her skill, but her extraordinary courage, her groundbreaking ingenuity, and her unwavering spirit. Other doctors, initially doubtful and dismissive, now stared in open-mouthed wonder, their faces etched with dawning respect, their professional pride humbled by the sheer brilliance they had witnessed. Murmurs of "unbelievable," "a genius," and "she saved her" swept through the jet cabin, growing into a deafening roar of adoration. The sheer force of their collective recognition, the deafening applause, and the visible emotion in their faces confirmed Aisha's absolute victory, her undeniable genius, and her complete vindication. As Aisha, flushed with exertion and a quiet, blossoming pride, bowed to the roaring crowd, the harsh cabin lights caught the gleaming, leather-bound journal that she clutched tightly in her hand. It seemed to pulse with an inner light, its intricate diagrams of unique plants and their molecular structures shimmering brightly, a silent testament to a legacy reborn. Mr. Julian Vance, his eyes still shining with emotion from the triumph, caught sight of it clearly. He gasped audibly. He knew that journal. Its unique craftsmanship and the archaic scientific illustrations were utterly unmistakable. It was the personal journal of Dr. Elias Rahman, the Root Doctor, a legendary, almost mythical biochemist and ethnobotanist who had pioneered groundbreaking research into natural compounds for healing in the mid-20th century. Dr. Rahman, a brilliant black scientist, had been unjustly denied recognition for his work, his research suppressed, and his contributions erased from mainstream medical history due to systemic racism. Julian Vance's own grandmother, a philanthropist deeply interested in holistic medicine and social justice, had not only corresponded with Dr. Rahman in secret for years, but had also passionately championed his cause, lamenting the injustice done to him, a story Julian had heard from her in hushed, regretful tones, a profound, unfulfilled mission she had entrusted to him before her passing. The journal, gleaming in Aisha's hand, confirmed her lineage. She was Dr. Elias Rahman's granddaughter, inheriting not just his unparalleled medical genius, but also his quiet dignity, his relentless pursuit of knowledge, and the very spirit of healing that had defined him. This revelation, hitting Julian Vance with the force of a physical blow, elevated Aisha from a surprising talent to a living legend, the direct, rightful heir to an almost mythical scientific legacy. The struggling black teenager, dismissed and rejected, was, in fact, royalty in the world of true medical innovation, a prodigy whose quiet knowledge surpassed generations of conventional wisdom. The thunderous applause for Aisha Rahman at the private jet's makeshift medical arena echoed far beyond the confines of the cabin, reverberating throughout the exclusive, often secretive world of elite medical research and high finance. The news of her miraculous triumph over the impossible medical emergency, coupled with the astonishing revelation of her lineage to Dr. Elias Rahman, the Root Doctor, a legendary figure in ethnobotanical and biochemical innovation, spread like wildfire. Mr. Julian Vance, a man whose word carried immense weight in the tech and medical industries, personally ensured the story was told with unflinching honesty, meticulously detailing Dr. Evelyn Reed's petty machinations and Aisha's unparalleled brilliance in every prestigious circle he frequented. Medical journals, initially skeptical of an unknown teenager with unconventional methods, now ran sensational headlines, often featuring glowing praise for Aisha and unflattering exposés of Dr. Reed's unethical and prejudiced practices. For Dr. Evelyn Reed, the public humiliation aboard Julian Vance's private jet was nothing short of catastrophic. Her carefully constructed facade of medical infallibility and professional prestige crumbled under the harsh glare of public scrutiny. News of her attempts to sabotage Aisha, coupled with the unyielding public support from Julian Vance and the irrefutable evidence of her unprofessional conduct, sealed her fate. Julian, now a staunch and powerful ally of Aisha, wasted no time. He used his immense influence to publicly denounce Dr. Reed's unethical medical practices and blatant discriminatory tendencies. Suddenly, Dr. Reed's vast network of connections evaporated. Lucrative research grants she had been negotiating collapsed. Hospitals, once eager to feature her, revoked her visiting privileges and medical licenses across multiple states. Her carefully cultivated image as a top-tier physician withered under the harsh light of community condemnation. Her sprawling, once prestigious clinic, a symbol of her power, became a lonely, echoing testament to her hubris. Patients, disgusted by her arrogance and the public revelations of her cruelty, took their business elsewhere. Her phone, once constantly ringing with offers and fawning calls, now sat in eerie silence. The corporate shark title she so proudly flaunted vanished into thin air. She lost all her major contracts, her once loyal staff abandoned her for more ethical employment, and her vast wealth began to hemorrhage. Dr. Reed tried to reclaim her lost dignity, to bluster and deny, to threaten and intimidate, but her words now rang hollow, her reputation in tatters, reduced to a bitter, isolated woman consumed by her own small-mindedness. She ended up financially ruined and professionally ostracized, facing multiple lawsuits for medical negligence and malpractice, a fitting end for her greed and prejudice. One cool evening, weeks after the challenge, Aisha was reviewing preliminary research data for a new project when a quiet knock came at the door of her modest apartment. It was Dr. Evelyn Reed, her face a mixture of humility and embarrassment. She looked older, her shoulders slumped, her usual air of stiff authority replaced by a visible unease. Aisha, surprised, invited her in. For a long moment, Reed simply stood there, avoiding Aisha's gaze. "Aisha," she rasped, her voice rough, devoid of its usual condescension. She cleared her throat, a flicker of something akin to genuine regret, or perhaps shame, appearing in her eyes for the very first time. I was wrong. About everything. About you. About what's possible." She shifted her weight, clearly uncomfortable. "What you did for Mr. Vance's wife. No one in my generation, no one in this district, has ever seen anything like it. You won. And I was rooting for you to fail. I deeply regret that." She couldn't offer a full apology, her pride still an impediment, but the simple, uncharacteristic admission, the quiet acknowledgement of Aisha's undeniable skill and the sheer scale of her victory, was a testament to how profoundly Aisha had shattered her rigid worldview. She finally saw Aisha, not as a statistic or a misguided student, but as an undeniable force of nature, a master of the very domain she had claimed to understand. Her own ingrained biases, exposed and broken, now paved the way for a grudging, then growing respect. For Aisha, however, the challenge was not just a victory. It was a watershed moment, the opening of doors to an unimaginable future. Mr. Julian Vance, utterly captivated by Aisha's genius and deeply moved by the discovery of her lineage to Dr. Elias Rahman, a man his own grandmother had deeply admired and lamented the injustice done to, wasted no time in making an extraordinary offer. He saw in Aisha the continuation of a legacy he felt honor-bound to restore. "Aisha," Mr. Vance had said, his voice now imbued with a profound respect he hadn't anticipated, as they sat in his opulent office overlooking the city skyline, surrounded by models of cutting-edge medical devices. "Your grandfather, Elias, was more than a biochemist. He was an artist, a healer. He understood the very breath of life, the silent language of cells and compounds. And you, my dear girl, you have his hands, his mind, his very spirit. He spoke of seeing beyond the visible, of listening to the subtle whispers of a coming breakthrough. You possess that gift, magnified." He presented an unparalleled opportunity, a full partnership in establishing a groundbreaking independent medical research division within Vance Enterprises, to be known as the Rahman Institute for Integrative Healing. He would provide the significant financial resources, the state-of-the-art facilities, and access to his extensive scientific library and network of experts. Aisha, in turn, would oversee the research, design, and development of revolutionary integrative medicine, focusing on neglected diseases, holistic patient care, and the therapeutic properties of natural compounds, building upon her grandfather's pioneering work. This was not merely a job offer. It was an invitation to fully realize her grandfather's lifelong vision, to revolutionize medicine, and to become a leading figure in medical science. It was an acknowledgement of her intellectual and practical aptitude, a profound recognition of her worth that transcended any material reward. This was the true compensation, the ultimate prize, the freedom and resources to fully explore and develop her prodigious talent, to forge a legacy that would benefit generations. She would be surrounded by top scientific minds, given every tool she needed to become a master in her own right, building upon her grandfather's groundbreaking research. Julian even promised to dedicate legal teams to systematically recover her grandfather's stolen research and patents, and ensure his rightful place in history. Aisha, her eyes wide with a mixture of wonder and burgeoning hope, accepted with a quiet solemnity. The offer was a revelation, a validation of the quiet passion that had long burned within her. Her cramped apartment, the struggles, the rejections, the daunting challenge, all now felt like a chrysalis from which she was about to emerge, transformed. Later that evening, as the city lights began to twinkle below, Julian Vance drove Aisha back to his private estate. The conversation was easy, flowing, a natural rhythm developing between them. Julian spoke of his own grandmother, a remarkable philanthropist, and her deep admiration for Dr. Elias Rahman. He recounted how she had secretly corresponded with Aisha's grandfather, lamenting the injustice done to him, and how she had confided in Julian, entrusting him with the unfulfilled mission of righting that historical wrong. "My grandmother often spoke of the injustice done to your grandfather," Julian said, his voice soft, almost choked with emotion. "She saw his genius, recognized his vision. She would be so proud to see you carrying on that legacy, Aisha. She truly would." They stopped by a serene koi pond on the estate. The air was cool, carrying the scent of night-blooming jasmine. Julian turned to Aisha, his eyes earnest, filled with a warmth that went beyond professional respect. "Aisha," he began, his voice a little shaky, "this journey, meeting you, it has redefined everything for me. You're brilliant, courageous, and possess a spirit that simply shines. You saved my wife. You saved our child. And you've shown me what true integrity and genius look like. Beyond business, beyond legacy, I found something truly extraordinary with you." Then, in a spontaneous, deeply personal moment, touched by Aisha's grace, strength, and brilliance, Julian Vance made an unexpected, heartfelt request. He didn't kneel to propose marriage, but his voice was thick with emotion, his eyes shimmering with unshed tears. "Aisha Rahman," he said, looking up at the young woman, the city lights reflecting in his eyes. "You've not only healed a broken legacy and shown me a future I didn't know existed, you've become family. My wife, Eleanor, and I have talked extensively. Will you do us the honor of being the godmother to our unborn child?" Julian's voice broke slightly, and a tear escaped, tracing a path down his cheek. "And more than that, will you personally oversee Eleanor's postnatal care, using your unique approach? Will you become our trusted family physician, our medical advisor for life? You are the only one I trust to ensure their long-term health and well-being. This isn't just a request, it's a plea from a grateful man." "You saved them, Aisha. You saved my family." Aisha gasped, her hand flying to her mouth. The sheer unexpectedness of the moment, the profound sincerity in Julian's gaze, the tears in the eyes of a man who rarely showed emotion, rendered her speechless. Her journey, her quiet desperation, the rejection, the triumph, all culminated in this moment, a testament to a life she could never have imagined. Her younger brother, Kareem, recovering well at the Boston facility, thanks to the initial payment from Julian, had given his tearful blessing to her new venture. Proud beyond measure of her achievements. Now, here was a partner who saw her completely, understood her deeply, and trusted her implicitly. The solitude that had once defined him was now a choice, not a necessity. The internal growth was profound. She was no longer just a black teenager struggling, but a burgeoning medical prodigy, recognized and revered, stepping fully into her legacy, a young woman who had found her perfect partner in life and in healing. Tears welled in Aisha's own eyes, tears of profound relief, overwhelming joy, and a deep sense of belonging. She extended her hand, her fingers trembling slightly, gripping Julian's arm firmly. "Yes," she whispered, her voice thick with emotion. "Yes, Julian. It would be my greatest honor." As their hands met, a new chapter, unforeseen and brimming with promise, began to unfold. 10 years later, the name Dr. Aisha Rahman resonated through the most esteemed echelons of global medical research and patient care, no longer whispered as a curious anomaly, but pronounced with reverence. At 28, remarkably young for her profound impact, Aisha had achieved a level of mastery that transcended conventional boundaries. Her reputation was built on a profound understanding of human biochemistry, fused with an intuitive, almost spiritual connection to the very essence of healing through integrative approaches. She had developed her own unique methodology, seamlessly blending the timeless principles of her grandfather's theoretical brilliance with cutting-edge medical science and sustainable rehabilitation innovations. She was a visionary, a pioneer, whose touch could resurrect failing health and redefine the future of eco-conscious patient care. Her expansive office at the sprawling, state-of-the-art Rahman Institute for Integrative Healing, a gleaming testament to innovation and ethical medicine, built and funded by Julian Vance, now displayed a prominent, beautifully framed portrait of her grandfather, the Root Doctor, his kind eyes mirroring Aisha's own quiet intensity. And always, nestled securely within a specially designed pocket of her tailored lab coat, lay the worn leather-bound journal, now meticulously preserved. Its intricate diagrams of unique plants and their molecular structures, a constant, luminous reminder of her heritage, the extraordinary path she had carved, and the profound journey she had undertaken to find her true calling and purpose. Aisha was not just succeeding, she was thriving, profoundly fulfilled, and radiating a quiet, unshakable happiness that touched everyone around her. She and Julian Vance were not merely business partners, they were collaborators, bound by shared values, intellectual curiosity, and mutual respect. Their lives intertwined in a beautiful, unexpected dance of friendship and purpose. Aisha's journey, from the quiet desperation of a cramped apartment to the boundless skies of medical innovation, had revealed a deep-seated truth about herself. Her purpose extended far beyond the mechanics of healing. It was about creating opportunities, about igniting the same spark of passion and potential in others that Julian Vance had so generously ignited in her. With the unwavering support of Julian, who had indeed become her truest partner in every sense of the word, Aisha established numerous initiatives aimed at fostering diversity and inclusion in STEM fields, and particularly in medicine. Foremost among these was the Dr. Elias Rahman Legacy Fund, named in honor of her pioneering grandfather. This wasn't just another charitable endeavor. It was a comprehensive, deeply personal program dedicated to nurturing young talent, especially those from underprivileged communities and minority groups who, like her, possessed an innate aptitude for scientific inquiry and a burning desire to excel. The fund provided full scholarships to specialized medical research programs, top-tier scientific academies, and leading rehabilitation institutions, ensuring that financial barriers would never stifle burgeoning talent. Aisha personally spearheaded a robust mentorship program, taking on promising young researchers and aspiring physicians as her apprentices at the Rahman Institute. She spent countless hours guiding them, patiently explaining the intricate details of biochemistry, teaching them the subtle art of listening to the body's silent language, and encouraging them to see beyond the cold data to the very soul of the patient. She shared her own story with raw honesty, the quiet struggles, the pain of rejection due to her race and socioeconomic status, the moments of profound doubt, and the ultimate triumph of embracing her true self and finding her purpose. She often emphasized that true success wasn't merely about individual achievement, but about the profound responsibility of lifting others, of illuminating paths for those who might otherwise remain in the shadows, their talents unseen, their voices unheard. Her work with the fund was not just philanthropy, it was a living embodiment of her gratitude, a deeply personal mission, and her unwavering commitment to forging a more equitable and compassionate future for all. She stood as a beacon of possibility, a living testament to the fact that brilliance knows no socioeconomic boundaries, no racial limitations, and that with the right opportunity and unwavering belief, potential can explode into genius, transforming lives and landscapes. The sun, streaming through the vast, environmentally conscious windows of the Rahman Institute's state-of-the-art research wing, cast a warm, golden glow on Aisha. She stood, not in formal academic attire, but in a practical, elegantly tailored lab coat, her confident posture reflecting years of hands-on experience and intellectual growth. Around her, a dozen young faces, eyes wide with a mixture of awe and fervent curiosity, hung on her every word. They were from incredibly diverse backgrounds: inner-city youth, aspiring scientists from struggling rural communities, students who had been told that medical or scientific fields were not for them. All were united by a shared passion for the intricacies of human biology and the desire to push the boundaries of healing. Aisha pointed to a meticulously crafted, gleaming model of a revolutionary new gene therapy delivery system her team had developed, the Root Doctor, a testament to resilience and innovation, a dream brought to life from the seeds of her grandfather's forgotten genius. Every part of the human body, Aisha explained, her voice clear and resonant, from the smallest cell to the most complex neural network, tells a story. And your job as future healers and scientists is not just to analyze, but to listen to those stories, to understand the harmony, the delicate balance within every biological system. True mastery isn't just in what you achieve, but in how you innovate, how you heal, and what you can inspire. She gestured towards the model of the Root Doctor, a testament to her profound understanding and tireless dedication. Eleanor Vance, now a vibrant and healthy mother of two, stood nearby, a testament to Aisha's guidance. Her children, a boy and girl, now 8 and 7, who affectionately called Aisha Auntie Aisha and their godmother, ran up and hugged her legs, their health flourishing under her unique care. Her younger brother, Kareem, now a healthy, thriving young man and a promising medical student at a prestigious university, fully funded by the Rahman Institute, stood proudly by her side, helping manage the Institute's extensive outreach programs. This very approach, she continued, a soft, contented smile gracing her lips, taught me that the greatest power isn't just in overcoming adversity, but in cultivating resilience, in growing new life from the seeds of past rejections, and in ensuring that the future of medical excellence takes root for everyone. The final image, both powerful and poignant, encapsulated the entire journey. Aisha stood in the heart of that thriving, vibrant facility, her hand resting gently on the sleek, silent model of the Root Doctor gene therapy system, her touch tender, reverent. Her other hand, raised slightly in a guiding gesture towards the eager young faces before her, was adorned by the gleaming leather-bound journal, now catching the golden light of a late afternoon sun. It seemed to pulse with a quiet energy, its intricate diagrams and handwritten wisdom shimmering brightly, a silent testament to a legacy reborn, knowledge passed down, and dreams taking vibrant flight. The journal pointed not backward to the past, but forward, towards the boundless possibilities stretching before the next generation. It was a beautiful, profound image of abundance, community, and the enduring transformative power of talent, compassion, and unwavering belief. It showed a future where the seeds of wisdom, once nurtured in solitude, now blossomed into a shared, boundless garden of healing, promising a more equitable future for all. If this story stirred your heart, if it reminds you that courage can alter destinies and that light always finds a path even in the deepest darkness, please leave a comment. Share this story with those who need inspiration. Like, subscribe, and hit the bell to never miss our upcoming stories.